Don't forget to click that subscribe and bell icon to receive a notification each time I upload a new video. Hi everyone, it's Mike here. So this morning I woke up having had a dream about doing an art journal page. I know, I dream about some really weird things sometimes, but sometimes it's those kind of dreams where you imagine doing things and you think, actually I could probably do that in a real art journal page. I suppose it's where sometimes our inspiration comes from. I know people have woken up in the middle of the night with ideas and they've written them down and they've turned out to be, you know, $1 million ones. But for me, I don't get those ones. I just get ones where I do art journal pages. Never mind, maybe one day, but but in the meantime, until I wait for that $1 million idea to come, I'm going to pursue this art journal page. So I'm going to do it in my my Diane Reevely, my Dylusions creative journal. This is the 8x8 one. And I'm going to do it on this page here. So I've gone through my napkin collection. I found this one which will work quite well with what I want to do. I've already removed the ply from the back, but what I want to do is I want to actually separate, I've already made a start here, look. I want to separate this side from that side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use it just this side only and leave this side open. But I'm going to see if I can use a water brush, get some water going just through those bristles and just see if I can wet the napkin, which will make it easier to tear. There you go, look. So rather than fussy cutting all this out, I'm just going to wet that area. Then that should just make it a lot easier. There you go. And then I can just put this side to dry and I can use that on another day. So that's so much easier than having to try and rip it and tear it. But of course it's going to be too long for the page, so I just need to trim it off a little bit. So I'm going to position it so it's just over the crease there, so it needs to come down to about here. I might just overlap it a little bit. So let's get that brush again and then we'll just go straight across there like that, and then I can just really easily just remove that bottom piece. Now I've got a nice piece of tissue or napkin that's just going to sit over that half of the page. So to get it glued down, I'm going to use some matte medium. So this is the Slap It On matte medium from Indigo Blue, and I'm hoping, yeah, there's enough. There we go. I'll just grab a paintbrush. That should do me. Give it a decent coat. I've not gessoed the pages yet because I want to get this tissue down first before I add any gesso to the page, which I will be doing. So just add that medium there, and then very, very carefully I place just at the top there. I don't want it to, can get a little bit fiddly because they're very, very kind of light. There, happy with that. So I'm going to go straight into the corner and then work my way outwards that way, and then add a little bit more. That should do. Take a little bit and then just work my way really delicately because I don't want it to rip. And then just glue that down onto the page. And then we can do the rest of this side. So I'll need some more. And again, I'm going to start from the in. I'll work my way to the outer. And I don't mind if there's a little bit of rinky dinklage, because that just adds a bit of texture. But just go gentle. Enough of the matte medium on to soak through the paper and glue it down. Now we've got a little bit there that I could just scrape out with my finger, because that's where that pattern repeated again, which I don't really want. There. Okay, so I'll drop that brush in some water. We'll get that dried off. Pretty napkin, like it. Okay, so that napkin is pretty much dry now. So because I've taken it into the crease of the page, it's not inhibiting the folding at all, which is brilliant. So the next thing is I'm going to bring out some white gesso. So again, this is white gesso from Indigo Blue. They're Gesso Good in white, also available in black, but this isn't an advert. And I'm just going to take a little bit of white gesso from the lid, and where it transitions from the napkin to the page, I'm just going to add a little bit of gesso to kind of start to blend that in. And I'm just going to go really, really light. Because gesso, when it dries, if you put it over the top of something, it will show through what's underneath. So you can go fairly kind of gentle, just gentle strokes where you want that transit to be. And then when you get to that section that doesn't have anything, you can go a little bit heavier. And if you wanted to, you could just get a bit of a smaller brush, or I could use a smaller brush just to get into the detail areas, but I'm not particularly all that bothered. Now down here I do want to add a little bit more gesso over this side, and I'm just going to start to kind of cross hatch and fade that little bit out, because I've got a focal point that I want to add to this side about here, which I'll show you in a second, but I just want to add that gesso down there, because I will be painting over the top. I'll make sure I get plenty of gesso on this side. Starting about there. And then I can add a little bit just at this side, just to fade that side out a little bit. I'm not going to be decorating this page, so I'm just going to blend kind of like that tissue, so it almost looks like it's fading. Pretty much all I'm going to do on that side of the page. That's a little bit harsh there maybe. Just keep on adding the gesso until I'm happy with the coverage and the whiteness of that section. I want these flowers to stay as they are, but down here, don't mind if they kind of fade away a little bit. Okay, I think I'm happy with that, so I'll just give that a quick blast with the heat gun just to make sure it's all dry before I then introduce my next element. Okay, so now that's pretty dry, I've realised that actually I need to go a bit further up. The placement for my next element does cover this a little bit, so I will need to add just a little bit more. You know, minor adjustments and all that. So I'm just going to grab that gesso again and just quickly go a little bit and then just lightly fade that out. That's it. Just needs to go a little bit further than I originally anticipated, which is fine. That's it, that'll do. So just get that dried off. Okay, so all of the gesso is now dry, and I've just pegged the corners of the journal just to hold them down because they were starting to curl up just a little bit, which is kind of annoying, but these things happen when pages get wet. So all I've done is just added a little clip just to hold it down while I carry on with the next couple of pages. So next element I'm going to bring in, I'm going to use my new, this is the Belle stencil, but instead of stenciling this time, I'm actually going to use it as a drawing template. So I'm just going to hook that on there just to hold it in place. Now I have got another one somewhere, or I did have another one somewhere. Somebody's tied it up. Never mind, I'll use a paper clip, seeing as there's one handy. And I'll just slide that, just to hold that stencil in place while I do what I need to do. So I have a pencil. So I'm going to just very, very carefully with the pencil just go around the inside of the stencil. So instead of using it as a stencil, I'm using it as a drawing template. Just really, really lightly. I don't want to press heavy. All I want are the outlines. And if you don't push hard, they don't tend to move that much either. Because it is only a plastic stencil, when all said and done, it's not as rigid as it would be if it was like cut out of metal. So when I created this stencil, I did it with the idea that if you weren't very good, or your hand wasn't steady, or you weren't confident in drawing faces, you could maybe use this stencil as a template as opposed to just putting paint through it. And as you can see, it really doesn't take long. You don't have to include all the detail if you don't want to. And then when you get to the eyes, all I'm doing is just doing those as on the nose as a kind of place of positioning guide, really. And then again, just with the lips. And that's pretty much it. Like I said, it's only a template, it's only a guide, it's only meant to be rough. It's not meant to be a finished product immediately. So when we transfer that onto the page, that's what we've got. Okay, so what I want to do now is to get some smaller brushes. I'm going to use my water brush like we had before, and I'm going to bring out my, now you've got to excuse my pronunciation. I don't speak either Chinese or Japanese, so if I pronounce Gansai Tambi wrong, then I do apologise for those that get offended over people getting pronunciations of foreign languages that they don't speak incorrectly. Right. There is a cover to these things, I just can't get my finger underneath it. There we go. And I've had these paints for quite some time, but don't use them that often. They are individual pans, so you can remove the individual colours. Let me see if I can show you, if you don't know what these are. There you go. So you can just take out the colours that you want, if you want. But they are watercolours. So what I tend to do is just use a little bit of a brush, and I think we'll go, because we've got oranges and yellows in there, that's kind of what I want to do. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of that colour, and I'm just going to start to kind of pick it up and lay it down in a kind of watercolory wash, but trying obviously to stay between the lines. Now I also have to bear in mind that I am also painting over the top of a tissue, at this side, so I've got to be careful not to get it too wet because I don't want to tear it. So I am kind of aware as well that this is going to take some time. So what I will do is, while I'm colouring, is I'll pop on some nice calming music, and then I'll slip into fast forward so you can watch me build up the colour on Belle. Without having to sit and watch it in real time. Okay, so I think I'm pretty much done with those watercolours now. I know it's not the most brilliant watercolour ever. I mean, I don't profess to be a watercolourist, but for me, to be able to get in there and draw faces or anything that is definitely outside, you know, my comfort zone is, you know, it's always a bonus. So, you know, you can always come back in a little bit later and finish off, finesse, just darken up where you want to darken up, and just add in, you know, your final kind of detail wherever you feel that it's kind of necessary. Sometimes it's not, you know, you don't need to come back in and add in, like I'm doing now, just adding in a few shadows and that kind of stuff. It's all down to preference, really, as to how far you want to take it. But I think sometimes just to be able to define and finesse just slowly and kind of at your own pace, add in a little bit of detail, you know, with maybe some coloured pencils. It's really up to you how far and how much detail, you know, you feel that you want to add into your project. And I kind of use the watercolours as kind of base coats and just add in, you know, some little details later. Don't need huge amounts because you just let it speak for itself, really. But I think I'm going to leave it there. Maybe just add in some little pupils just underneath that blue. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it. So we've gone from a stencil to, you know, what I think a fairly kind of acceptable female figure. So I hope you've enjoyed watching me do that, even though it has been on fast forward because it did take quite some time. But if you did enjoy it, please remember to give it a thumbs up, share the video with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel before, already I should say, then you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. But please remember, I'm not a professional watercolourist, I'm not even a professional painter, so this is just me playing and practicing and getting an idea out of my head. So that's all from me for now. I'll see you all again very soon. Bye for now. I'd like to say a huge thank you to all of my angels, because without you, these videos would not be possible. Thank you.